Hi everybody, the He-Man Season 2 reviews are over, and now it's time for the finale video of this year. Get ready for my top 10 favorite characters from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I found making this list incredibly difficult, since this was the second time I had attempted it. There are so many cool characters from He-Man that I would have loved to have had on the list, but I couldn't because the list would have become ridiculously overbloated. So I had to put in some stipulations, and this list is comprised entirely from series' regular characters. To close out the possibility of recurring guest stars, I decided that these characters had to have appeared in at least 5 or more episodes. I think later I have to make a top 10 supporting and one-off character lists, but for now, let's focus on figures that appeared all through the series, though there will be at least one character who was introduced in Season 2 on the list as well. Let's get on with the list. Number 10, He-Man. Honestly, I hate putting the series lead in the top 10 because it's always difficult for me to compare how much I like the character in relation to everyone else, so I decided to give him the token number 10 spot. He-Man is a superhero show essentially, and the strongest man in the universe definitely goes through the motions of beating the baddie and plot device of the day. However, He-Man is actually one of the most fleshed out characters from the show, and his personality is shown to have a lot of depth in a few episodes. At the same time, I love He-Man's way of cracking jokes and throwing out one-liners while he takes care of the bad guys. This is one of the main things which appeals to me about the show.
Tila, could you put your finger here for a second?
However, in case you've overlooked the character development in He-Man, you might want to give these episodes a watch. Prince Adam No More from Season 1, as well as Into the Abyss and Problem with Power from Season 2. Number 9, the Sorceress. Probably one of the most important female presences from the show, the Sorceress always helps out with cryptic clues and occasionally with her magic powers. She doesn't get to be in the thick of the action a lot, but without her, Adam wouldn't have his powers. The Sorceress is a pretty vital character, though perhaps falls into the background a lot of the time. However, a few episodes you should definitely see with the eagle-headed Madam of Magic, Evil Steed from Season 1, and Origin of the Sorceress from Season 2. Number 8, Cobra Khan. As mentioned before, Cobra Khan made his debut in the second season, and I think he's probably the most underutilized and underappreciated of all of Skeletor's henchmen. Even though he has the ridiculous power of stretching his arms, he also has his knockout gas, which I like because it makes him look more like a cobra. Also, Cobra Khan is a fucking badass. When Skeletor's other henchmen are busy bickering and cowering, Khan gets the job done. Therefore, it's a shame that he didn't have more or better appearances throughout the show. But as I mentioned, the episodes with him worth watching are Disappearing Dragons, Freddy Cat, The Magic Falls, and The Cold Zone. Number 7, Evil-Lyn. Another notable female figure from the show, Evil-Lyn really stands out as one of the few villainesses from the show. I've always liked Evil-Lyn, even though in the Filmation show she was a little gruff and not the stereotypical sexy witch you would have expected. She also despises Skeletor and even openly plots to overthrow him. She did indeed have a tendency to go off on her own. Evil-Lyn typically transforms herself to disguise her identity and uses various magic spells, but she also adds a bit of variety into Skeletor's Council of Evil. Episodes worth seeing from her include The Shaping Staff, Evil-Lyn's Plot, and The Witch and the Warrior, all from Season 1 this time. Number 6, Cringer/Battle Cat. So, where would He-Man be without his big green pussy?
Cat.
Cringer probably has a far more impressive transformation, going from a total cowering wimp into a mighty tiger which He-Man can ride. However, although Battle Cat gets a few badass lines in the show every once in a while, I've always liked Cringer a lot better. I don't know why, but for some reason I think cowardly talking animals are just very sympathetic. Guess that's why I like Scooby-Doo so much. But really, you can't but feel sorry for Cringer most of the time. Cringer could have easily been in the top 5, but at times his voice performance would get really irritating. It's interesting that Alan Oppenheimer kept developing Cringer's voice throughout the series. At the very beginning it was quite low and not as wimpy, but about halfway into the first season it attained the whimpery quality everyone associates with it. However, in Season 2, Oppenheimer really overdid the voice in a lot of episodes, which actually made me dislike Cringer at times. However, this list wouldn't be complete without him. Some of the standout episodes include The Disappearing Act, The Quest for He-Man from Season 1, as well as Battle Cat from Season 2.
Hey, do you mind? I get a little nervous when I travel more than 100 years away from home.
Don't worry, Cringer. I'll use my magic to defend us.
Your magic? I'm in even worse trouble than I thought.
Now, this next one was a difficult pick because I wanted to include Stratos, one of my favorite He-Man allies, but at the same time I wanted to give Ram Man, another great friend of He-Man, a shout out. So, in the end, I decided these two collectively would form one entry. Number 5, Stratos and Ram Man. I've gone on and on about Stratos being my favorite He-Man ally, but maybe I should finally explain why I like him so much. One of the first He-Man episodes I ever saw was the creatures from the Tar Swamp. One of the flying creatures Skeletor resurrected tears the wing off Duncan and Teela's Wind Raider, but then we actually see the Wind Raider crash. He-Man hurries to the wreckage and it looks really bad. Then, this happens.
Up here, He-Man.
That has got to be one of the coolest character intros around. From that point on, I became a fan of Stratos. Ram Man, on the other hand, made the list for more obvious reasons. He's a kind-hearted but dumb brute who's always bashing into things head first. He has some of the funniest lines in the entire show, and he makes every episode he's in hilarious. Sadly, the best team-up episode with Stratos and Ram Man is the lackluster Curse of the Spellstone, but individually they appear in some pretty awesome episodes. For Stratos, the episodes you need to see are of course The Reign of the Monster and The Betrayal of Stratos. For Ram Man, check out The Quest for He-Man and House of Chakotay Part 2, both from Season 1. Number 4, Teela. Strangely, I've never really seemed to have stopped to truly discuss Teela, yet I really couldn't imagine He-Man without her. On the offset, Teela comes off as a hot-headed Amazon, but she's actually a lot more clever and sympathetic than you might first suspect, not to mention Captain of the Guards. Sure, her overt determination did play a huge part in some early He-Man episodes, but the only one where it went a bit too far was Ordeal in the Darklands. Most of the time, Teela is a great support character who gets to crack jokes and kick ass along with the boys. She has a great relationship with Adam and He-Man, Orko, and also her adoptive father Duncan. Teela has a bunch of great appearances through both seasons, but ones you'll want to look out for are Teela's Quest, The Wizard of Stone Mountain, and The Witch and the Warrior from Season 1, and from Season 2, Into the Abyss, Beauty and the Beast, and The Problem with Power. Number 3, Beastman and Trapjaw. Skeletor has a lot of great henchmen, but the ones that stand out the best for me are Beastman and Trapjaw. So I decided they should share the number 3 spot. These two were in the very first He-Man episode I ever saw, like father, like daughter. Beastman is by far the most abused of Skeletor's lackeys, often bearing the brunt of Skeletor's anger when their plans fail. However, his power of summoning and controlling animals give him a unique flair, and I've always loved John Irwin's voice performance. Yes, Beastman and He-Man share the same voice actor.
Forget it. You won't need this. You won't need anything.
Trapjaw is also unique. He might have been the first amputee I ever saw in a cartoon. I love his robot arm, which he can change to a laser gun, or pretty much anything else. He's a bit lacking in personality, but he's such an oddball character that I really can't help but to like him. For Beastman, the episodes you'll want to check out are The Dragon Invasion and Prince Adam No More, both from Season 1. For Trapjaw, he doesn't have that many great standalone episodes, but he appears prominently in House of Chakotay Part 1 and Double-Edged Sword. However, the episodes by these two that are absolutely worth seeing are obviously the ones where they appear together, so, like Father, Like Daughter from Season 1, and from Season 2, 3 on a Dare, and of course, Orko's Return. Number 2, Orko. Orko is just an absolute hoot. He's always been one of the most interesting characters in He-Man. For one, he stands out from the relatively realistic art style due to his cartooniness. At the same time, he's sort of mysterious since we never see his face, because apparently Trollins only show their face to the one they love. Orko is also the most commonly used comic relief, and you can be sure that whenever he's in an episode, he's easily the funniest character in it. Also, you might find it interesting that Orko is voiced by none other than the executive producer of the show, Lou Scheimer. Indeed, Orko was brought to Eternia against his will, saved Adam and Cringer from the tar swamps, and became the royal magician. Orko's homeworld, Trolla, plays a big role in a number of episodes, as do his relatives and friends. There are far too many excellent Orko episodes for me to list, and I strongly recommend checking out the ones I've already discussed in my top 10 episodes video and the episode reviews. Orko is one of my favorite characters, but there is still one other that has him beat. Number 1, Skeletor. Was there any doubt that he was going to be number 1? Really? Skeletor is the quintessential cartoon villain. I just find the fact that his head is a levitating skull to be really cool, and he's definitely a worthy adversary for He-Man. The truth of most superhero series is that the hero is only as mighty as his adversary. And of course, I love that evil cackle by Alan Oppenheimer. Now, Skeletor has gone through some development phases as well. At the start of the series, he was more callous and a prominent villain who didn't much care who he stepped on. Sure, there were some humiliating defeats, but he was considerably more serious as a threat. A little later on, he started to become more humanized and a bit childish, and finally he became more or less a bit of a comic relief character in the second season. However, Skeletor's presence is even felt in episodes where he doesn't exactly appear, like Dawn of Dragoon and Fistel's Forest. Also, Skeletor is almost as good at insulting his henchmen as Shredder.
No hurry,
They're gone! But where? How?
It's the sorceress, you boob! Dolts, half-wits, bunglers, brainless idiots! You couldn't even beat a motley group of gnomes!
Just like with Orko, there are far too many good Skeletor episodes for me to list. Even in bad He-Man episodes, I usually like what he's doing. Some of his finest moments, in my view, are the She-Demon of Phantos, where he fights He-Man head-on, the Dragon Invasion when he finally got inside Castle Grayskull, the Reign of the Monster, obviously, Evil Seed where He-Man and Skeletor were forced to work together, and of course, here, there's Skeletors Everywhere, in which he makes a bunch of Skeletoids. Well, that's all for me for now. I hope you enjoyed the list. Expect more He-Man goodness next year. Until then, I have the power, so can you.